Hello and happy Tuesday, which is, of course, my book reviews day. And today I want to talk to you about Jade War by Fonda Lee. This is the middle title in her Greenbone trilogy, starting with Jade City, which was The Godfather plus Magic and Kung Fu. I reviewed that a few weeks back. Now we have Jade War, third title I'm currently in the middle of, called Jade Legacy. So, this is getting the Subterranean Press small press treatment eventually. Don't know when, but this right here is just the trade edition from Orbit Books. What is pretty unique about my copy, though, other than the fact that it's just a regular trade edition with some little printing error, which I'll get to in a minute, but I did manage to get a signed copy through the signed page, so that's pretty cool. So if you haven't watched my review for Jade City, please do so. You should definitely check out this Greenbone saga that Fonda Lee has created. Brief recap. This takes place in a world where there is bioenergetic or magical jade, which imbues the person holding the jade with abilities such as heightened senses, such as heightened perception, heightened strength, the ability to steel yourself against attacks, the ability to move lightly or with like swiftness and speed. Basically makes you a little bit of a superhuman, if you will. And this jade is solely mined on the island of Kekken, which is where the entirety of the first novel takes place. It takes place in Janloon, the capital city, Jade City, as they call it. And the entire jade trade is controlled by by many clans, the main two of which are the Mountain Clan and the No Peak Clan. We follow the No Peak Clan, which is the Call family, and the four main members of the Call family. We have Hilo, Shay, Lan, and Andon. And I'm not going to spoil the events of the first one. You should definitely check it out. But what Jade War does do is it expands upon the world quite literally. So as you can see, I love me some maps, some nice cartography. And this has a map of the whole world, all the continents. Kekken being one little tiny island there. So it definitely expands upon the scope of the world that was introduced in Jade City. Primarily it happens in Kekken and the Republic of Espenia, where Andon, who was a student in the first book, is now sent to go deal with the Republic of Espenia. He's there as a student to learn more. Meanwhile, the other Call siblings are remaining in Kekken, where they are continuing their battle against the Mountain Clan. And then, I guess, is my first takeaway point for Jade War here, that the title is very misleading. I went in expecting war. The first novel had war. It had a clan war between the Mountain Clan and the No Peak Clan, and things were getting pretty dicey in that war. And the titular Jade War here isn't as prominent. I guess Jade City had more of a war in it than Jade War did. There is international conflict brewing, particularly between the Republic of Espenia and Yucatan over Shotar and Ortoko. It's kind of an international conflict going on, but you don't really encounter that. It's all happening in the background. And the clan war itself between the Mountain and No Peak clans is very subdued. It's not really full-fledged battling to the deaths in the streets like it was in Jade City. And I never really noticed that. It's kind of got like it was ripped out of a notebook here. It's pretty cool. The street battles have stopped and have subsided, and it's kind of led to more of like a mudraking kind of battle, like a battle of the press, but battle of public opinion between the two clans. They're slinging mud back and forth, but not really drawing blood. And I guess that's my biggest criticism with Jade War. It's still a good read. It reads very well. If you like Fonda Lee's writing style, if you like the first one, you're probably going to like this one. However, don't expect it to up the ante. And that is kind of what I'm getting at. Is it almost seems like it lowers the stakes. Despite being on a global scale, all of the action of the war is happening behind the scenes. The storylines of Shag and Hilo just feel like they're treading water. And I guess it's what you might refer to as like middle novel syndrome in trilogy, where the second novel doesn't really progress too much other than to set up the third novel. And I suppose you could say that is true of Jade War. Things definitely go crazy in the final act. I mean, I'm not going to say that the entire thing doesn't have teeth. I mean, it has teeth, but it doesn't show those teeth until, the last 100 pages or so. But throughout the remainder of the novel, the remaining, 500 pages, 450 pages or so, it's just kind of progressing I don't want to say family drama, because that's not a good way of putting it. It's kind of just progressing what's happening in the world without actually having too many consequences. There is action throughout the rest of the novel. There is a duel that occurs halfway through that you get really excited for. It just, I don't know, it doesn't have as much bite as the duels in the first novel did. I said mine is kind of a unique copy. My copy here, you might see like some dark pages in the center there. Mine has some overprinting. Some of the pages here in the center printed out too long for their own good, so you kind of see the pages getting stamped down and the printing being on the top there. So that's unique. You're probably not going to get a copy like that, and I would say it's more of a defect than a unique situation, but it is what it is. I think it's pretty cool. Barrow, who is the lowly jade thief from the first novel, has probably the best storyline within Jade War here. He was kind of down and out over the course of the first novel. He had a wild ride in Jade City, and he has a wild ride in this one as well. And however, that once again, that's more of a middle novel syndrome where his storyline is great, but you don't really get any conclusion. It's like, hey, wait until next time, wait until the third volume, tune back in. And I don't want to say that the whole novel is like a tune back in for the third novel, because like I said, the final act, final 100 pages or so are pretty crazy, pretty wild. And it's worth getting up to that point to begin with. So that is definitely worth the read. So if you haven't read Jade City and you like the idea of the Godfather with magic and kung fu, you should definitely check out Jade City. If you like Jade City, you should check out Jade War. It's one hell of a read. It might not have as much bite as the first novel did, but it's still a very fun read. And I can tell you, the Jade Legacy, which I'm about halfway through, is phenomenal. That one is incredible. One other thing that I did have a problem with in Jade War here are the time jumps. So the first novel doesn't have any significant time jumps. Jade City, it's a little bit here and there it jumps around, but we're talking like jumping around months at a time or even a couple of years. Like a year passes later on. But it doesn't really give you any indication of the time jumps. You're just like reading it, and it's like, hey, in the last 6 months, and you're like, oh, I guess 6 months have passed. This is kind of corrected in Jade Legacy, the third novel, which has much more significant time jumps, but it actually has a little counter of like, oh, the 12th year. Like you have a counter indicating right at the start of the chapter that you've jumped 3 years ahead in the future. Which, like I said, that doesn't happen here in Jade War. You're just reading, and it's kind of jarring when you're like, oh, I guess this character who had just had a baby is pregnant again, and it kind of feels jarring. But like I said, that's something that's corrected in Jade Legacy, so I can't hold that against it. What I can hold against it, and now this isn't really a spoiler. I mentioned how in the first title, Jade City, there was a scene that kind of it wore its influences of The Godfather on its sleeve, involving a adopted son or adopted member of the family being kidnapped to deliver a message, just like you have with Tom Hayden. Hagen. Yes, Tom Hagen. Thomas Hayden Church, is an actor. Anyways, there is a scene in this in which it's like, well, we're plotting to kill somebody. and I'm going to keep it very vague because I don't want to spoil anything, but they're like, hey, we're gonna kill somebody, but we need to get a weapon in there. And so you're going to set up a meeting to sneak a weapon in to kill somebody. And they're in the meeting and they're like, hey, let's switch languages. And it sounds exactly like the dinner between Michael and Sollozzo. Then it kind of is. However, I will say that's where the influence of that scene ends here in Jade War, because things turn out completely different direction, unexpected ways. So I don't want to say that it's a complete ripoff in that scene, because it just kind of takes some light influence, slight influence there, and then it goes its own way with it. Anyways, Jade War by Fonda Lee is available wherever books are sold. As I said, the trade edition is available through Orbit. If you want to try to get the signed limited edition through Subterranean Press, best of luck. Your best chance is probably going to be obtaining a copy of the Jade Shards. It's a short story collection which hasn't been published yet, but I do have a copy on order, and I'm excited to get a copy once it arrives. Jade Shards, which was limited to 1,250 copies, gets the owner first right of refusal for Jade City, which is only limited to 600 copies. So there are going to be 650 disappointed folks who own the Jade Shards who aren't going to be able to get Jade City. But it's going to be sort of free-for-all. All 1,250 have the first right of refusal, and whoever the first 600 are to buy Jade City will be the ones that have Jade City. And then Jade City will lead to Jade War, lead to Jade Legacy, and so on. But copies of the Jade Shards aren't terribly expensive on the secondary market, so if you want to try to get first shot at Jade City, I'd recommend going out and buying a copy of the Jade Shards. It is sold out directly through Subterranean Press, but you can get copies in the secondary market, or perhaps through other sites or other sellers, such as Camelot Books might have some copies, Grim Oak Press might have some copies, and so on. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm going to do one of these reviews every single week. Plenty of unboxing videos to hold you over in between those reviews. Please consider liking and subscribing, and we'll see you around next time.